Magandang araw! April Marcas po, ang inyong pretty ate sa Edtech Unit. Alam ba ninyo na may webinar o online training session ng Edtech Unit tuwing Sabado? Ang araw na ito ay nakalaan para sa ating mga mahal na kaguruan upang turuan sila ng mga bagong kaalaman at kakayahan sa paggamit ng makabagong software at applications para sa pinaka-epektibong paraan at lubos mapaghusay ang kanilang paraan ng pagtuturo. This is also a refresher session for our beloved teachers to enhance their skills in technology. Every Saturday, we will conduct webinar sessions for teachers about the use, advantages, and relevance of different blended learning software applications. Ang webinar seryeng ito ay magsisimula ng alas 9 ng umaga hanggang alas 12 ng tanghali para sa morning session. Magsisimula naman ng alauna at magtatapos ng alas 4 ng hapon ang afternoon session. You can watch us in our DepEd Edtech Unit Facebook page, Educational Technology Unit YouTube channel, DepEd Tayo, and DepEd Philippines. Kita-kits tayo tuwing Sabado!
Magandang araw! Sir Wilbur po, at your service. Narito ang ETUlay upang gabayan ka sa inyong pag-aaral upang lubos na maunawaan ang iba't ibang paksa o subject. Ang ETUlay ay isang free online tutorial class na pinangungunahan ng ICT's Educational Technology Unit sa pamumuno ni Undersecretary Elaine Del P. Pascua. Ang programang ito ay hindi lamang para sa mga bata, kundi ito rin ay magsisilbing gabay sa mga magulang at mga guro kung paano nila ituturo o gagabayan sa bawat asignatura ang kanilang mga anak o mga estudyante. Sa kasalukuyan, ang self-learning module mula sa rehiyon ng Calabarzon at kilala sa tawag na pivot ang ginagamit sa ating ETUlay online class. Kaya ano pang hinihintay ninyo? Ihanda na ang inyong mga ballpen o lapis, papel o kwaderno at samahan kaming itulay ang pagkatuto para sa bawat batang Pilipino. Sama-sama tayong magtutulungan para malampasan ang mga hamon sa panahong ito. Halina't matuto kasama ang inyong online tutor sa oras na ito.
Hello. Good afternoon, Philippines. Magandang hapon po sa lahat ng nanonood ngayon dito sa ating ETUlay online tutorial for the subject Contemporary Philippine Arts from the Regions. At syempre, good afternoon din sa aking OIC School Director ng Quezon Science High School, Dr. Carla Marie de Carandang, sa aking mga colleagues in the same school at sa mga estudyante ng Kisay at ng buong Pilipinas na nakatutok ngayon dito sa ating online tutorial. Also, I would like to say good afternoon sa aking professor sa UPO-UNDC course, Dr. Benjamina Flor, at sa aking mga classmates na malamang ay nanonood din po ngayon. Maraming salamat po sa pag-accept ng invitation to be part of our ETUlay online tutorial session this afternoon. And, syempre, like what I've said earlier, you are with me to learn more about Philippine contemporary arts from the region. I am your tutor for this afternoon, Tutor Mary Grace. We are already in our fourth quarter and this is week 1. So for this week, we're going to talk about the local materials and techniques in contemporary arts. But before we dive into that, let me just greet some people who are very early in our chat box. Good afternoon to Ma'am Sally R. Daniel Palomo, Teresa Tet Olino, Eden Ruth D. Tejada. Good afternoon, Paula May. Welcome, and once again, thank you for being with us today. Hi kay Jarvis Pinol Razon, JM Zamudio, and Ma'am Mary L.V. Seras. Paula, Jarvis, and JM are students of Quezon Science High School. Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. Okay, for this week, we are going to use the ADM coming again from Region 4A Calabarzon. Okay, thank you very much for lending us these modules. And our MELCs remain the same. We're going to be able to critique available local materials and appropriate techniques used in creating art, and explicate the use of available materials and application techniques. However, in our objectives, we have some changes. Okay, since we are focusing on the local materials, these are the objectives that we need to achieve after this lesson. Okay, number one is to discuss local materials in creating art. Number two, recognize local materials found in your community that can be used in creating art. Number three, compare traditional from contemporary in terms of technique and materials used. And finally, maybe after this class or maybe after this week, you would be able to create an art piece using found objects and other materials available in your community. So sana yung mga estudyanteng nakikinig sa atin this afternoon will be able to do this. You can send me your pictures para ma-feature natin yan dito sa ating ETUlay online tutorial. All right, let's go now to the previous takeaways from last week's lesson. So we learned about the definition of technique, which is the way artists use and manipulate different kinds of materials. We learned that the different techniques, that contemporary art has different techniques. So yung mga artists, they can freely choose what techniques they want to use, the same with materials. And we also discovered that art, once experienced, can also be considered as an artifact. There you go. Those are our previous takeaways. This time around, we are going to play a game. And syempre, as usual in our afternoon session about this kind of subject, okay, we always have these games just to pick your interest. Okay, so are you ready to play this game? Before I give you the instructions, I'd like to welcome Ma'am Dayan Pareha. Okay, thank you very much for being with us in this online tutorial. All right, the instructions here is for you to observe the following art pieces and guess the materials they are made of. Okay, so we are focusing again on local materials. So think about materials used in art that are locally found, okay, in our country, in our surroundings, in our community, in our region, etc. All right, are you ready? So I'm going to show you pictures and then you're going to guess what these materials are. You can type in your answer in our chat box. Okay, first item of the day. For the game, what am I made up of? Are you ready? So this is our first picture. Okay. What you see here is actually a very innovative way of using a kind of material that is very abundant in our country, in Asia. Okay, they use this material to create, or I mean, to combine art with technology. But come to think of it, the material has already been around even before I was born or you were born. Okay, but this is very clever. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to guess this material. Are you ready? 5 seconds. Start now. All right. What kind of material is this? It can actually amplify the sound of your mobile phones. If you're listening to music, you can drop your cell phone in that hole that you see in that material, and the music, the sound will be amplified. All right. So before I give you the answers, let me read the answers in our chat box. Ma'am Dayan said bamboo. JM said bamboo. Paula May is asking, is it bamboo, ma'am? Rosetta Season said it's bamboo. And Aliyah Tobas Wallace says it's bamboo. And of course, you are correct. This material is bamboo. Okay, so some facts about bamboo. It is the fastest growing plant or grass for that matter on the planet. And you know what? It creates more oxygen than trees. Come to think of it, if you have a plantita or if you are a plantita, why not plant bamboos around your house so that it will be colder? Okay, because they create more oxygen than trees. So there you go. So this item, okay, the bamboo speaker for mobile phones, for iPhones, etc., okay, in that area, okay, they can help make they act as speaker actually. They can help amplify the sound of the songs you're listening to at a cheaper price. All right. And it's very natural, so it will not add up to the pollution that we are experiencing right now in our surroundings. And of course, those who answered bamboo, you already have 1 point. Are you ready for our next picture? All right, let's proceed. Now, this next picture is another local material. but in the form of a hat. Since it's summer, okay, so I chose this picture because it's summer, or maybe it's just a coincidence. But what do you think is this hat made up of? Okay, 5 seconds. You can type in your answer starting right now. Okay, so it's colorful, and again, it's natural. It's being done in our country for several decades already, and in other countries as well. And the answer is, okay, Ma'am Rossetti Season, you are correct. This is buri or buri. All right. So some fan facts. It's a variety of palm tree found all over the country. Okay, and it's already next to the coconut tree when it comes to being useful because its buds can be eaten in salad form. Its sap is fermented to make the local drink called tuba. And the petiole of its leaf produces the buntal fiber, the one that you actually see in the picture of a buri hat. Okay, it is made up of buntal fiber coming from buri. Okay, and it can come in the form of baskets, banig, bags, and hats. There you go. So if you got this correctly, you already have 2 points. Moving on to the last item for our game, and this is item number 3. Here is our picture, and we see here a kind of furniture in my favorite shade of green. Okay, what do you think is this furniture made up of? 5 seconds. Start typing right now. So once again, good afternoon to our viewers in Facebook and YouTube, and thank you for joining me in our art session this afternoon. The answer is these furnitures, these chairs are made up of rattan. Okay, so what is rattan? So if you're already in my age, for example, this is a very classic piece of of furniture that we can find in a in a typical Filipino home. Okay, and yes, Ma'am Diane Pareha, you are correct. This is rattan. Okay, rattan again belongs to the palm family, much like the buri, and it grows up to hundreds of meters long. That's why rattan farmers spend a lot of time in harvesting this kind of palm. Okay, its core is used in in furniture making, such as the wicker. Wicker is a kind of furniture that is made up of very thin pieces of wood twisted together, like the one you see in the picture. So again, this is rattan. There you go. So we have bamboo or kawayan, then we have buri, and we have rattan. Those, my dear class, are examples of local materials. Okay, yes, Ma'am Rossetti, it is common in the Philippines. Now let's proceed to our lesson. We're talking about local materials here, and earlier I've shown you some of the local materials that contemporary Filipino artists use in creating different art pieces. Now these materials, they are very rich in our country because we have abundant natural resources from sea to land. Okay, we have unlimited materials that can be used to create different artworks, such as the one that we see in our pictures. All right. So to enumerate, these materials include abaka, bamboo or kawayan, buri, capiz shells, rattan, seashells, and the latest addition would be found objects. Later on, we are going to discover what found objects is, okay, or are. Okay, now you see in the picture is an example of a bamboo art. Okay, so let's focus first on abaka. Okay, the abaca belongs to the banana family. So its fibers have a natural luster with colors ranging from pure white to ivory and dark brown. So given that range of color, you can do a lot of things with abaca. That's why it's also being used not just in practical crafts, but also in the field of contemporary art. So these are the examples of art pieces, okay, that are made up of abaca. There you have to your left a kind of furniture. Then abaka can also be used in designing clothes. Okay, and of course those tiny trinkets that you find in your home, such as the coasters made up of abaka, as seen in the picture on the right side. So abaka again, is a local material that artists can use to create contemporary art pieces. Moving on, our next material is bamboo or kawayan. So this kind of grass is used in creating many products. So it is used in construction, textile, musical instruments, and many more. If you recall, during our earlier sessions, I've mentioned about kubo. Okay, it is made up of engineered bamboo. It is a house that you can buy at a very cheap price. Okay, and it will be delivered to your lot. Okay, it will be assembled right there in a matter of hours. So that kind of house is called kubo. Okay, it is made up of engineered bamboo. Because why not? Okay, because bamboo is very abundant, and like what we said, it's the fastest growing grass or plant on the planet. Okay, so here are examples of bamboo arts. So you see, it can be used in almost all forms of art. It can be used in architecture and interior design, just like the one that you see in the right side. Okay, inside that cafe are bamboo interior designs. There you go. That's bamboo for you. Bamboo the singer is a different one. All right, moving on. We have buri. Okay? It is extracted from matured leaves of buri palm. Again, it came from a kind of palm tree. Okay, the fiber called buntal is durable and resistant to moisture. And kapag tumatanda, umiedad ang buri, humahaba ito. So, yung mga nag-aano nito, yung mga nag-harvest nito, they are really making literally hundreds of art pieces, hundreds of crafts out of this material. Katulad ng hats, ng bags, banig, okay, mats, even carpets. Okay, these are some examples. Plus, on the right side of the slide, you can also see that you can combine buri with other materials. So in the example, you have there kind of a handbag combined with textile, okay, para mas maging fashionable and more aesthetic yung dating at yung pagkakagamit ng buri material. Okay, moving on. Our next material is Capiz shell. So kung kayo ay fan ng antiquity, especially sa mga bahay, then you are already familiar with Capiz shell. So what do we know about this? They are translucent, okay, kapag na-harvest na sila as shells, and they allow light to pass through, but still allows privacy. So more like parang tint, natural tint sa ating bahay, for example, sa ating kwarto, pero okay, they can let light pass through. Okay, even though nagsisilbi siya as divider or coverage, no? They come from window pane oyster, scientific name Placuna placenta, which are found in the coastal waters of the Philippines and are known for their beautiful mother of pearl look. So ito yung bentahe ng Capiz shell. Okay, meron siyang mother of pearl look. Ay, tama-tama, tayo naman ay nasa Pearl of the Orient, di ba? So this is very fitting. Okay. So before I proceed, I'd like to say good afternoon and thank you for watching. Mary Joy Banal and Paul Cruz, his sister and his uncle. Okay, thank you for being with me in our session. And these are some examples of art pieces made up of Capiz shells. Yeah, there you go. So on the right side, you will see there the very classic, okay, the very vintage look of Capiz shell as part of a house or of your home's window. Diba? Then you have lanterns made out of Capiz shells and syempre mga DIY lamps. All right? Mom has a question. Okay, let me see. The question is, let me read it. It's a nice question, actually. What province promotes Capiz, ma'am? Okay, what province promotes Capiz? Let me see. Okay, so Capiz is actually very abundant in the country. Okay, so sometimes those area with coastal waters, okay, or surrounded by coastal waters have this kind of shells, okay, in them. So for example, we can oh, wait a minute. Nawala yung tanong ni ma'am. What province promotes Capiz shell? Okay? So, like what I said, yung mga area na maraming coastal waters, doon matatagpuan yung mga maraming copy shells. Okay? Sa Pilipinas, marami tayong lugar na maraming coastal waters, napapaligiran ng tubig. Ito rin yung mga lugar na marami kang mga harvest na copy shells. Okay? So, ayan. So, I hope that will give at least a bit of an answer. Okay? So, ayan, may additional question si ma'am. Where can we find copies? All right. So, let's see. Where can we find copies? According to what I've read earlier, nagbablanko lang yung aking screen. Okay. Syempre, hindi yan Rojas City kasi Rojas is, copies is a place in Rojas, but not the shells. Okay. Now, in our country, it is abundant in the eponymous province of Capiz, okay, the Gulf of Aden. Sa ibang lugar naman yon, up to the shorelines of the Philippines. So, ayan, there you go. Okay, thank you din po sa mga tanong, ma'am. Rossetti season. Okay, moving on. So there you go. Yan yung copy shells. I remember one time in one of the houses featured by a popular vlogger, feature niya yung isang bahay na meron siyang modern look pero ni-retain nung may-ari yung area kung saan merong mga copies shell designs. Okay? Kasi ito nga, this is part of our antiquity already. Itong mga copies shells, lalo na yung window. I'm really a fan of those kinds of window or window panes. Okay, let's move on. So the next material would be rattan. All right. So rattan, again, kasama yan sa mga palm family. And there are different types of rattan palms, such as the high or low climbers, single stem or clustered rattan species. And they can grow very long, okay, like hundreds of meters. So the rattan farmers can harvest them and then produce different kinds of products out of rattan. So these are examples of crafts and arts that can be made out of rattan. So meron tayong rattan handbags or shoulder bags. And then of course, yung pinakasikat sa Pilipinas, yung mga rattan furnitures. Okay, so check niyo yung bahay ninyo. Baka meron kayo dyang rattan furnitures. Okay, so it's also part of our antiquity. And I'm also a fan of it. Mas fan lang ako ng copies. Not that may bias ako, pero these are parts of our history. Okay, speaking art. And even though we are already in the contemporary time, ay talaga namang gamitin pa din itong material na to when it comes to art. Okay, there you go. So that is rattan for you. Moving on, our next local material will be seashell. Siyempre, sabi ko nga kanina, marami tayong shorelines, marami tayong anyong tubig sa Pilipinas, napapaligiran tayo ng karagatan. Okay, yung mga provinces natin, ganun din. Talamak din siyempre yung mga seashells. But, okay, hindi lang silang magandang tingnan doon sa shoreline or sa beaches. Maganda rin silang tingnan when ginagamit as art pieces or crafts. Okay, so these are hard exoskeleton of marine mollusks such as snails, bivalves, and chitons that serve to protect and support their bodies. So, syempre, wala na yung laman sa loob. So, this material is usually used in making ornaments and house decorations. So, in as much as we adore how seashells look in their natural environment, okay, pwede naman natin yung damputin at gamitin sa paggawa ng iba't ibang klase ng art pieces. Pwedeng ornamental, okay, pwede rin naman with specific use. Okay, one particular example na nagiging kilala ngayon ay yung pagkakaroon o paggamit ng seashells sa tinatawag nating miniature art na gaya ng nasa picture natin. So as you can see, isang valve ng seashell tapos lalagyan siya ng iba't ibang art pieces na maliliit talaga, okay? Almost microscopic. Hindi naman. Miniature art yung tawag dyan. Okay? So, and the shell itself became like a vessel for that kind of art. So this is one example kung paano magagamit yung seashell, okay, in combination with contemporary art. There you go. Moving on. Okay, the last one would be found objects. So it's literal. Okay, don't dig too deep. It's literal. Found objects. Let's explain what it means. It is taking something that people view as useless. So, meron kayong mga anik-anik dyan sa bahay na gusto nyo na o patapon na, okay? O kaya ibebenta sa live selling or whatever. Okay? Pero kung ang tingin mo dyan useless na, you can still make a use of it in a unique way by creating an artwork. Okay? So, ang tawag natin doon, pag sinagawa natin yon is found objects. The idea is that things that we often view as junk are more valuable than we think that they are. So lahat ng makikita mo from tela to pencils, any material, okay? When you combine them together to create an art piece, then you are following this kind of contemporary art movements that we call found objects. For example, we have here all right, we have here the artwork called Alphabets 2 by Merrick Brown. It is an assemblage of paints, markers, metal and wood scraps, melted plastic, and different kinds of found objects that are assembled on a wood. Okay? So, pinesent siya ng ganyan and it's a very expensive artwork, contemporary artwork, okay? And it is called Alphabets 2. So, there you go. So, yung palang mga trinkets natin sa bahay, napatapon na, okay? Pwede pala natin yung gawing art piece. Di ba? At magkaroon pa tayo ng chance na mapadisplay siya sa isang exhibit. Di ba? We call that found objects. No? So talagang we are making use of things that are, in our view, in our opinion, ay useless na. Pero there you go. Pwede pa pala siyang gamitin as artwork. Okay? As materials for artwork. So ito yung isang example. Okay? Here we have another example about found objects. But you have to remember that this contemporary art movement, it refers to both material and technique. Okay? Ito na yung material, found objects na yung material na ginagamit, and then yung technique is also called found objects. Okay? So anything that you can do to create art out of these, yun yung found objects. Okay? So aside from found objects, the other contemporary art movements that we have these days are these ones. The first would be minimalism. So, alam na natin, pag sinabing minimalist, kauntian lang. So, bawal yung mga abubot, etc., etc. Bawal ang madami kasi minimalism na. So, it is one of the artistic movements that has been most relevant throughout the contemporary art movement. So, it seeks to take away whatever is unnecessary, leaving only what is essential. So, in contrast to found objects, parang ito yung kanyang, ito yung idea kung saan tatanggalin mo naman yung hindi na kailangan and mag-focus ka lang sa whatever left that should be essential. Okay, syempre, yung artist, yung magde-decide. Okay? So, kagaya nung finiture natin dating artwork, yung banana duct tape to a wall, di ba? Yung comedian. So, that could be an example, or that is an example of minimalism. Here are other examples. Okay, mahilig ba kayo magpalit-palit ng inyong wallpaper, whether sa cellphone or sa laptop? So ano yung napipili nyong ilagay na wallpaper? Sometimes picture nyo, sometimes picture ng kung anik-anik na mga lugar na pinintahan nyo, etc., etc., or yung nadadownload sa internet. So one of these digital art can be following the movement called minimalism. Kagaya na nasa picture na yan. Okay? It's a digital artwork. Okay, and very minimalist talaga yung approach. You can see it's just plain green. I think that's moss green with a carton-based character on the lower part. Maliit lang yung area na ino-occupy niya. Hindi nga 1/4 ng area ng screen, di ba? This is an example of contemporary art following the art movement called minimalism. All right? So, another example would be this piece of art. Okay, it's in a museum actually. So 3 panels with different colors. Okay, and you're already looking at an art piece. This again is an example of minimalism. Okay, I think that's really minimalism to its core. All right, another art movement, okay, that we have to learn is what we call the large scale art. So Walter de Maria created an art piece in 1977 that included 400 steel poles over 1 mile by 1 kilometer, creating something huge to express diverse perspectives in artwork. This kind of contemporary art has become incredibly popular since then, since 1977 up to this day. Diba? For example, meron ba niya sa Pilipinas? Definitely. Kung nagagawi kayo ngayon sa Mall of Asia, I'm not promoting, okay, meron tayo dong tinatawag na MOA Neon Alley. So, pwede ito i-consider na large-scale art. Okay? So, it makes use of the environment. Kaya lang, yung art na to is making use of light technology. Okay? Neon lights to be exact. And another example that I passed by would be this one. Okay, this is an example again of a large-scale art. Converting a small room into an art piece on its own. So it's large-scale because it makes use of the environment inside that room. Okay, so these are examples of large-scale art. There you go. So those are the focus, okay? Those are the core of our lesson for the day. The local materials and the different contemporary movements in art. Okay, so I hope you've learned these takeaways. First, that the local materials in our country used in art include abaca, bamboo, buri, kapis, shells, rattan, seashells, and found objects. So kung di kayo familiar dun sa all the rest, okay, maybe familiar kayo din sa last one, found objects, kasi lahat na nga yan ang makikita natin, di ba? Then another takeaway would be that contemporary art movements include minimalism, large-scale art, and found objects, okay? And then, of course, found objects refer to both materials and techniques. So these are the important learnings that you have to absorb today, okay, for our lesson. Okay, so do you have anything you'd like to ask? You can type in your questions in our chat box. So once again, good afternoon and thank you for being with me in our online art tutorial. Okay, so let's proceed now to Dun, 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 the quiz time. All right. So last week and the past and last week we've had multiple choices in our quiz time. This time around we'll be focusing on identification. So I divided our quiz into two parts. Nakapag two parts pa si ma'am, di ba? Part A is for you to identify the material shown in each picture. So I'm going to be showing three pictures for this part, and you're going to identify what material is shown there. Of course, these are local materials that we have discussed earlier. Are you ready? So you have 10 seconds to type in your answers in our chat box. So our first picture, okay, for this quiz will be this one. What material is shown in the picture? 10 seconds starts now. 10 seconds start now. Okay, so once again, good afternoon to Quezon Science High School and the students who are watching this session. Good afternoon, JM, Paula, and JM, Paula, and Ma'am Rossetti Season. Good afternoon, Ma'am Mary LB, Sarah's, Jarvis, and Ma'am Sally. Okay, time is up. And the answer for the first picture is rattan. So this is rattan. Parang medyo raw pa siya pero nalinis na. Okay, na rattan. Ready for use na to create those wonderful pieces of furniture that we can put inside our homes. Okay, so this one is rattan. All right, next one. Next picture, we have this material. Okay, what is this material? It's not yet polished to its full potential, okay, but okay, it is one that we have discussed earlier also. 10 seconds, you can start typing your answer right now. All right, and time is up. Your answer, the answer for this picture would be, okay, Ma'am Sel M. Bitong and Ma'am Rossetti Season. You two are correct. These are Capiz shells, okay, from the lesson that we have discussed earlier. But don't be misled. Ano ba sabihin nyo? Paano makakapass through yung live chat? So, hindi pa yan napapolish to its full potential, okay? Moving on. Question number 3. This is our picture for question number 3. Okay, what is this? This is not a tail of a horse. Okay, but it's a local material that we also discussed earlier. Okay, another clue is that it came from the banana plant. What material is this? 10 seconds. Start typing your answer right now. Okay, so yes, Paula, you are correct earlier for question number 2. Those are capiz shells. Time is up. And this material is called abaca. Okay, so abaca. Paula, you are correct once again. This is abaca. Okay, I hope you got the 3 correct answers for the first part of our quiz. Let's proceed to the second part, part B. For part B, you're going to identify the art movement shown in each picture. So earlier we discussed those art movements. We have 3 actually, and identify what is shown in each picture. All right? Our first picture is this one. What art movement is shown in this picture? You can focus on the design of the gadgets and even the arrangement of the things on the table. 10 seconds, go. Type in your answer, okay? And now let's have the answer. Okay, this art movement is all about, this picture shows us the art movement called minimalism. Okay, minimalism. So you think about being, thin, light, and more spaces. Okay, that is the idea of minimalism. Okay, yes, Mom Rossetti Season, you are correct. This is minimalism. All right, and if you're a practitioner of minimalism, then you can consider yourself a minimalist individual or person. All right. And for the last picture in our quiz time, are you ready? Let's proceed. This is our last picture. There. Okay. So this is actually an inspiration for the items here and there that I have here in our home. But what movement is shown in this picture? Okay, are you ready? 10 seconds. Start typing now. So again, thank you very much for being with us in this online tutorial. Okay, Kesayano students, thank you very much. Okay, so we have answers, large scale art. Is it large scale art? Found object, junk art? Okay, I think the last one got the correct answer. This is found objects. Oh yes, you can also call it as junk art because these are made up of objects that we deem useless. Okay, this is called found objects. So as you can see in that art piece, you have buttons, you have thread. What do you call the thread spools? Uh, a pawn. Okay, dominoes. So this is an example of found object kind of art. So like what I said earlier, it refers to both materials and technique. Okay, so there you go. So that concludes our quiz time. So I hope you got the 5 correct answers because that ends our lesson for the day. But before I leave, as usual, for this week, I'm going to leave you with a quote unquote a message from my featured person that I have prepared for you guys. Okay, so this will be the quote unquote moment of the day, and this guy in the picture said about art: art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. Art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. These are the words of Cesar A. Cruz, a justice advocate, when referring to how art should affect people who are experiencing the art pieces, for example. Tama naman, di ba? When you're looking at an art, you're doing it, and at the same time, it comforts you. And at the same time, if you're having problems, for example, it might give you that relaxation vibe, okay, because you're just looking at an art. Okay? And then if you're not a fan, okay, if you're not a fan of art, especially, for example, ako halimbawa, if I'm looking at the Jackson Pollock art, di ba? It somehow disturbs my usual cycle of thinking kasi I am being, ang tawag nito, randomly thrown, okay, at the art piece. Kung tinitingnan ko yung kay Jackson Pollock. Actually, yun yung effect sa akin ni Jackson Pollock when I first saw his art piece, di ba? So, ayan, yun daw dapat ang pagtingin natin sa art according to Cesar Cruz. Sino nga ba si Cesar Cruz? He is actually the first Mexican male immigrant na nakagraduate ng educational leadership, doctorate degree of educational leadership sa Harvard Graduate School. Okay? So si Cesar Cruz. At being an advocate of justice, a fighter for justice, no? Nagsagawa siya ng pagtakbo, 76 miles non-stop just to push his advocacy, and nagsagawa siya ng hunger strike for 26 days. So kung yung ginawa niya ay art form, okay, pag titingnan natin yung lalo na yung hunger strike, di ba? It's disturbing kung kayo ay comfortable. Okay? And para naman sa kanya, it comforts his disturbed soul, di ba? Yung sinagawa niya. So this is how art should be looked at according to Dr. Cesar A. Cruz. There you go. That's our quote-unquote moment. And that finally ends our lesson for the day. But before I go, okay, I have here some messages. Mom Rossetti says, I love this session. I hope I can join again next time. Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, Ma'am Dayan Perez says, can we have the copy of the presentation po? It is available in DepEd Commons, I believe. And Ashley Ferrer, congrats, ma'am. Thank you po. Thank you also for joining me in our art session for this afternoon. This is Contemporary Philippine Arts from the region, and I am your tutor, Mary Grace. So tomorrow, please join us in our Wednesday morning habit. Good afternoon and goodbye.